So this is my first time I'm doing citrus blondies, and the juice that I have set aside is a mix of orange juice and lemon juice, and this is my first time adding like actual fruit to it, and not just like juice and zest. So I'm going to set aside a couple of pieces of the fruit, the slices, to put on top. And then whatever's left over, I'm going to slowly incorporate that into the batter. I have enough set aside just so it's included and incorporated with a nice amount, but I'm not going to go overboard because this is my first time doing this. So I'm going to set the pieces aside that I'll have for the top part and then slowly incorporate the rest. But for right now, we're just going to do that and then start working on the batter. And also, I think I said citrus blondies. I'm doing basically like a citrus loaf cake because the blondie batter is very like cake-like. So I'm trying to see, I'm going to do a double batch of it, and I'm trying to see how much to put into this, because when I did it in this before, it does look kind of grimy, but I promise it's clean. The first time I put it into this, it was kind of small, so I'm going to see if doing a double batch gets it to a decent height. So yeah, we're just going to continue from here and keep going like there's no tomorrow. And I just have this plate for the ones that I'll have on top. Probably just do 5. Okay. Yeah, I think 5 looks good. I'll space it out nicely once. Okay. And now I'm going to set this aside, start working on the batter. And I will also include the recipe down below in the description. So if you want to make this for yourself, look down below in the description. I don't remember where I got it, but because it's not mine and it was for free. Again, I don't remember who originally made this recipe and what blog I got it from. So I apologize, credits to the original creator of this recipe, but again, I do not remember who that was. So apologies in advance. Recipe is down below in the description. Okay, so I have to get some butter melted and cooled. It's 1.5 cups since I'm doing a double batch. And because this is a larger amount, I am doing it in a slightly bigger bowl than I would normally. And then I'm also going to be doing it in shorter spurts of heating up. So I'm going to start off with like 30 seconds. 30-second increments. And also too, covering with a lid because I don't want to have to clean up the microwave quite yet. I don't want to clean up the microwave because of exploding butter. So this is what we're going to do. And also earlier in the video, so this is kind of what it's looking like after a minute. And we're just going to keep going again in 30-second increments. And just get it fully melted. I could do the stovetop. This actually might be good with brown butter, but I'm already here, so got our eggs. I'm not doing anything else until I get the butter finished, just because I want that to get cool enough, because with the eggs at room temp and then everything else, is there like a cream or something in this? I don't think so, aside from milk or butter. No. So just with like the eggs and the butter, I don't want one to be cooler than the other, which is why we bring out the eggs ahead of time. So yeah, the butter's done. I'm gonna get that out and then start on the recipe. Okay, so butter's cooling, eggs are getting up to room temp. Now with the citrus, I'm usually pretty generous with this. Like I don't go overboard, but I am a little bit more generous based on my household tastes. Like myself, my sister, my mom. And then I'm also a little bit generous with the juice the citrus juice. However, because I'm adding fresh fruit to this, I'm going to stick to the set amount of juice. But if I wasn't adding fresh fruit, I would add a little bit extra juice to this. So just be aware. But again, this is me, and I don't think that there should be much experimentation with baking unless you're super familiar with the recipe and how it bakes and how it works and how it all comes together. Like, so until you're like super familiar, I wouldn't mess around too much with the recipe, but that is my opinion. And yeah. Okay, so 2 cups of sugar. Again, this is doubling it, so the basic recipe is down below in the description. So 2 cups. Not too much though. And then I will do 2 tablespoons of citrus zest. And I say citrus because you can use orange, grapefruit, lemon, lime. Lime would actually be pretty good. I'm going to do 3. That actually might be the rest of this container. I'm gonna go for it. Again, original recipe, base recipe is a tablespoon, 3 teaspoons. Double would be 2. I'm doing 3 because I like the citrusy flavor. So the original recipe says just to mix the flour, sugar, salt, all the dry goods, and the zest together using a whisk. But what I personally do to kind of help the oils of the zest is I start off with just the zest and the sugar. And again, this just helps the oils come through and the flavor come in a little bit punchier. You don't have to do this, but if you do like that punchier citrus flavor, I do recommend doing it this way. And this would also be like a great way to do like a citrus sugar, like a lemon sugar, orange sugar, basically like a tablespoon of zest to a cup of sugar. And again, a tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. So just getting it all in there. And you can kind of see the sugar is starting to take on the color of the zest, which is what you want. Okay. And I'm trying to get under at the bottom so it can all get some of that zest, and if there are any clumps of zest, try to break that up. And then I'm gonna let this sit for a couple minutes while I get the dry goods, the other dry goods, so the flour, baking soda. I'm not gonna do salt because I did salted butter and I don't want it to be salty, so I'm not gonna do salt. You really want to try to avoid doing salted butter in bakes, like unless you can't avoid it. And if you have to use salted butter, then don't add salt, or like half the, or at the very most you'd want to use half of the salt that's set in the recipe. So in this recipe it's 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Again, I'm not adding any, but that for a double batch it'd be a half, so I would use 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt at most. But again, I'm not going to use any because I'm using salted butter, and this is a double batch, so I don't want it to be too salty. But as I said, I'm going to let this sit for a couple minutes while I get the dry goods, and you can kind of see the color of it. It's a really nice color. So yeah, I'm going to let this sit for a couple minutes. Okay, so 2 cups of flour. Now normally it would be salt and 1/2 teaspoon, but like I said, I'm not adding that this time around. And then 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. So we're gonna get working on that. And again, I just do the dry goods, while the while the citrus is settling with the sugar, because again, just letting it sit with the sugar helps to bring out some of those oils and to bring out that flavor. So that's 1 cup. My hands are clean, so this is going to be 2 cups. And I have the baking soda or baking powder and the salt. I'm gonna whisk that together a little bit. And now the citrus zest, the zest and the sugar should be good. So I'm gonna add this in here and then whisk this all together. And then you kind of want to be gentle with this, just because you don't want it flying everywhere. This is going to smell so good in a little bit. I probably should have used a bigger bowl since I was doing a double batch, or since I am doing a double batch, but it is what it is. Okay, so since it's mostly whisked, I'm just coming in with a spatula, doing a little bit more mixing to get some stuff from the bottom to the top. Again, not going super crazy. And then at this point is when we add the butter, the lemon juice, the eggs, and vanilla. How much vanilla? I'm gonna just do a tablespoon of vanilla. I'm using vanilla extract, by the way. I'll see if I can find a good conversion for extract to like others, but I would say just go with your gut for how much you should use. 3 tablespoons of citrus juice, which means for a double batch 6. 1, 2, probably could have let this melt some more. 4. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. And then adding in since the juice was still on the cooler side, I added in the butter before adding in the eggs, just to give the butter a little bit more time to cool down. Now I would say that the vanilla is an optional ingredient, just because if you want more of the citrus, then the vanilla can take away from that. So let's add in the eggs now. Personally, I don't think it takes away, but if you don't want to be tasting like vanilla and citrus and you just want to taste the citrus, then you can opt out of the vanilla. And again, I am kind of going slowly with this because it is a full bowl and I'm trying to make sure it's thoroughly mixed because it is a double batch and I don't want any like dry parts. I don't want any dry parts, but I don't want any eggy parts either, because that'll not be very pleasant. Now that it's a little bit more mixed, I am going a little bit quicker, but not too much quicker. Okay, and then I'm gonna move this over here for a second. I forgot to put that away. turn on my oven. Like 350. So it's going to be 350 degrees Fahrenheit, about 175 degrees Celsius. And that's like a non-fan. I mean, my oven has a fan, so I can do convection, but I'm not going to. Okay, so adding a couple of pieces at a time, again, just to see what it would be like, because I don't want to overwhelm it with the fruit. Maybe do a little bit more. I'm probably being a little bit more generous with the fruit than I should be, since this is my first time, but I'm just going with my gut. Okay, I think that should be good fruit-wise and just batter-wise. I'm gonna set this aside for now. And then I have the 5 that I'm gonna use on top. Ooh, this is very full. Okay. Yeah, this doesn't rise a whole lot from the past couple times that I've baked it. So I'm not too worried about it. I'll probably stick something underneath just in case. But again, past experience, at least for me, it doesn't rise a whole lot. Okay, so still waiting for the oven to preheat. I will say that the lemons, like I said, I think closer to the beginning, this was a mix of orange juice and lemon juice, and then orange zest and lemon zest. And the lemons were from my grandfather's garden and really sweet and really good. So hopefully we'll get that nice balance between orange and lemon. It might be more orangey, but we'll see how it goes. Also, in the original, the oven's almost done, but in the original recipe there was a little bit of a mistake where this was originally a blondie recipe, and in that they had put 20 to 25 minutes. For me, I had noticed that it was more like 50 to 55 minutes. So I'm gonna put 45 to 55 minutes in the description, and then I'll have a note saying that the original recipe said 20 to 25 minutes, but I think that was a mistake, just because like when I set the timer for like 25 minutes, it was far from done. So yeah, the oven just went off, so I'm gonna pop this in, and in about 50 minutes I'll check on it. I think for at least one of this full 50 to 55 minutes should be okay. It might be closer to an hour though, we'll see. I'll have to do the cake poke test, but we'll see when we get there. Okay, so I set it for 55 minutes. It's been about 15, and you can see it's not doing a whole lot of rising, but we are getting somewhere, and I did put that baking sheet underneath just in case, but it'll most likely stay at that height that you see now, and then we'll check on it again a little bit later. And then something else I do is I'll restart the preheat process because it does cool down, especially with the AC unit on the window AC. I keep the timer as is, but I'll just restart the oven just to get it back up to 350. But that's something I do. It's not necessary for every oven. I just like doing that because the window AC unit is on and blowing in this direction, and I like keeping it as close to 350 as possible because of that, because this kitchen gets hot. So 39 minutes left, see you on a little bit. Okay, so you can see it's risen like ever so slightly above, but not very much, and it is starting to brown on the edges, but it has about 16 minutes and 40 seconds left. So I'm gonna check on it then. This is heating back up to 350. I'm gonna check on it once that's up with the cake tester, and then go from there. Okay, so I've added an extra 10 minutes because it's still pretty wobbly. You can see it's getting brown. So it might get, for me at least, it might get pretty crispy on the outside and caramelize a little bit more. But that should only add to the flavor. But it was at like 6 minutes when I was about to check. And now I just felt like I had to add an extra 10 minutes. So hopefully we do okay. It was very wobbly in the middle, which is why I added 10 minutes. So something I forgot to do, but did kind of last minute, but should have done earlier, was adding foil on top, because it is getting crispier the longer it goes. And because this is, I'm not surprised by this, but because it is a double batch, it is taking longer to bake. And because it's taking longer to bake, the top is getting crisped and borderline burnt quicker. I'm just calling it caramelization because that's basically what it'll be and taste like with the lemon and the sugar. But yeah, if you're doing a double batch like I did in one go, definitely, at least for the first half of it. I'm not sure how long this is taking. I kind of lost track of the time. I keep adding like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But if you're doing this like me, 1, keep up track of the time for future, and 2, have foil on top for at least the first half of it to keep it from getting burnt too quickly. And then I am just gonna stop this video here because it is getting a little bit longer than what I would want this type of video to be. In the comments is how it worked out. It is going to be a little bit burnt, crispy, caramelized, but it should still taste fine. This is one of my favorite recipes to do in the summertime, so I'm not too worried about the flavor wise, but there'll be more of a crust, a defined crust to it, which is fine. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.